The Fiora Effect. Fiora is a bit of an oddity in League of Legends right now. As much crap as we love to give the balance team, they do a pretty good job of keeping the game fun for most of us and influencing the meta in a positive direction without really forcing it. There's always going to be OP champions for solo queue, there's always going to be stronger picks than others, but we haven't really seen any game-breaking buffs or anti-fun mechanics that enrage the entire player base the way LeBlanc did on release, requiring a hotfix nerf just hours after going live, or Orianna back in Season 2 early on in her champion's life cycle, who had a 100% pick or ban ratio at IEM Global Challenge Cologne. Although I'm sure some beg to differ, solo queue is pretty functional right now without any huge problem champions, and even competitive leagues see a fair amount of diversity. Across all 7 regions this past summer season, 87.4% of champions saw play either being picked or banned. Granted, a fair number of them were only played or banned out a few times. A fair number of those oddball picks did see wins, including Urgot, Vigar, and Shaco. We even saw Poppy being played successfully by Unicorns of Love as they qualified for the EU LCS Spring Split through relegations. But not Fiora. Fiora seems to be one of those few champions that everyone agrees flat out sucks. She was played once this past summer in the GPL by the Logitech G Fighters, as their top laner CCB picked her against a Rise, and although she didn't do that poorly going 1-4-12, the team ultimately lost despite a very strong early lead due to their late game and team fighting lacking compared to their opponents. It's obviously not 100% Fiora's fault, but she did play a major part in their lead disappearing despite a very fed mid laner. So what's wrong with her? Well, a few things are from a design perspective. Most top laners have some sort of CC or utility to help support their team, especially if they're a champion that focuses mostly on doing damage. Aurelia has her slow and her stun, Jax has his dodge and his stun. Even less popular top laners right now like Kayle have some sort of slow, heal, or other utility that they can use to help out their team rather than just being flat damage. It's important for a top laner to have CC especially, so they can set up jungle ganks or be useful to the team if they roam around or teleport into team fights. They aren't meant to do straight damage the way an AD carry does, but unfortunately that's what Fiora does right now. She has no crowd control and not enough utility to make up for it. A very similar thing actually happened with Mordekaiser sometime around Season 2, where a few pros started playing him occasionally due to him actually dealing a lot more damage than most other mid laners at the time. Hotshot GG specifically tried him out on multiple occasions, but ultimately he never caught on since he has no CC whatsoever, and even the amazing potential of utility for his ultimate doesn't counteract that fact, and it's hard to base a team around him because of it. Fiora is in an even worse position right now since it seems like nobody really believes she has any potential until Riot fixes at least a few of her major weaknesses, if not completely reworking her. So why am I talking about her then? Well, despite everything I've just said, I think she's really a strong pick in solo queue. Sky's probably going to beat me up for saying this, but I genuinely believe Fiora can be a good pick for your team in ranked, and I'll never rage at my teammates for taking her. She's in the same situation as Master Yi almost, where even though she has clear lacking features, she can snowball pretty damn hard with some early kills and be nearly impossible to fight in smaller skirmishes or 1v1s because of it. She's weak in many aspects and does not bring a lot to your team, but what she does bring can be abused if your opponents make mistakes, and we all know how many mistakes are made in solo queue. This video sort of touches on the same topics I talked about in my Is Blank a Viable Character in League of Legends video, talking about how everyone is technically viable if you just devote yourself to the character enough and take the time to learn them, but I think the situation is actually a little different than that one. Fiora is in a really odd position where she has zero competitive viability and will almost never be played in the LCS because of it, but those balance decisions that make her not viable in competitive play actually make her pretty strong in solo queue if you know how to abuse her. She's not the only one. She comes to my mind first when I think about this sort of situation because I've played her a decent amount in the past, but other champions exhibit the same sort of effect too. She's like a Shaco, Master Yi, or Tryndamere, champions who capitalize really hard on kill opportunities where they can snowball just from one bronze, silver, gold, or even platinum player's mistake not knowing how to play against them. That's not to insult any of those ratings, but they are comprised of a lot of players who obviously obviously don't play the game perfectly and make a decent number of mistakes every game. They make mistakes where they die 1 versus 1 in lane, expose themselves to jungle ganks by not warding, overextend in team fights, and misposition themselves around the map. They don't have the knowledge of how much damage their opponents do. Some of them don't even know how much the jungle creeps do, and because of that, a champion like Fiora, who's focused entirely on abusing those mistakes, snowballing, getting a ton of damage, early kills, and turning into that monster who roams around the map killing everyone, makes her a very strong pick for those who devote themselves enough to learning how to abuse the champion's strengths. This video is titled the Fiora Effect to give a name to this odd situation we have, and hopefully remind you of it when you come across it in the future, that despite the fact that every pro player, tier list, YouTuber, and analyst will tell you Fiora is a garbage champion who will never be played competitively, her kit actually gives the sort of traits you need to carry a solo queue game by yourself. There are champions out there like Fiora, Shaco, Tryndamere, Quinn, Master Yi, or even Warwick, who you probably won't ever see in competitive play for a very long time at least, but can carry you in solo queue if you take the time to learn them. With Worlds going on right now, it's important to remember that while there's a lot that we can learn from watching, like to buy a lot more pink wards, there's a lot that doesn't necessarily apply to solo queue that the pros do every single game that we should necessarily copy. Maokai and Alistar aren't the only good top laners to play as, Tristana isn't the only viable AD carry, and they aren't even necessarily the best to snowball a solo queue match with. Don't be afraid to play your favorite character or someone who piques your interest in solo queue just because the pros never play them, and don't be afraid to trust someone else who does the same on your team. Thank you all very much for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.